they stood alone, with ideas that changed everything. Brilliant minds against the world then.
Leprosy is one of the oldest diseases in human history. It appears in texts from ancient Egypt, India, China, the Hebrew Bible, and medieval Europe. For the entirety of that history, thousands of years, it was considered completely incurable. The closest thing medicine had to an answer was a traditional oil remedy that offered some relief when applied topically, but caused severe vomiting when swallowed and formed painful abscesses when injected. For thousands of years, a diagnosis meant social death, mandatory removal from your family, and legal confinement to an isolated settlement with no expectation of ever leaving. In 1915, a 22-year-old chemist in Honolulu finally figured out how to make that traditional oil injectable in a form that actually worked. She was the first person in history to produce a working treatment for one of the oldest afflictions on Earth. She was 22. She was dead a year later. After her death, her supervisor published the research under his own name. He did not mention her. Because she was dead before she could publish, her contribution disappeared from the scientific record for 84 years. Her name was Alice Ball. This is the finale of the Brilliant Minds Against the World arc. Follow along as we break down the chemistry and the subsequent tragedy of institutional theft. Solving the impossible was only half the battle. Surviving the historical record was the true insurmountable challenge. Alice Ball moved fast. She graduated from the University of Washington with 2 bachelor's degrees in pharmaceutical chemistry and pharmacy, completing both simultaneously in 2 years. At the College of Hawaii, she was the first woman and the first African American to earn a master's degree. She was appointed an instructor of chemistry at 22, another first for the institution, and was the most credentialed person of her age in the building. That made her the exact person a local physician needed to solve a problem the medical profession had been circling for decades. The active compounds in a traditional remedy called chalmukra oil had proven antibacterial properties against leprosy. The issue was purely mechanical. The medicine worked, but the delivery methods failed. Topical application couldn't penetrate the skin. Oral ingestion caused severe gastrointestinal distress that patients couldn't sustain. This diagram shows the core of the problem. Oil and body tissue are chemically incompatible. If you inject the oil raw, it refuses to disperse. It just sits there, pooling at the injection site and creating agonizing abscesses. Every physician who had worked on this problem since the 19th century knew this. They needed a chemist who could rewrite the physical properties of the oil itself. Given 1 year to solve it, Ball bypassed the raw oil and targeted the fatty acids. Through a specific chemical reaction, she attached an ethyl group to each free fatty acid molecule, converting them into ethyl esters. This modification changed the math. The new ethyl esters were water-soluble. When injected, they could disperse smoothly into the tissue, allowing the body to absorb the antibacterial agents in high enough concentrations to attack the bacteria. The clinical results at Honolulu's Kalihi Hospital were immediate. Patients receiving the new extract showed a rapid reduction in symptoms on a scale that had never been seen before. People who had been confined to the settlement with no expectation of ever returning to society began to recover. They were discharged. Families were reunited. In a laboratory at the College of Hawaii, before she turned 23, a chemistry student had dismantled a social death sentence that had plagued humanity for millennia. If you have been here for all 10 episodes, comment "Arc complete." If this is your first episode, comment Day 110 and go back to Day 101. Everything we have built over the last 10 days is behind this exact moment. In December 1916, Alice Ball died at 23 years old. The historical records regarding the exact cause of her death remain uncertain. What is certain is that she died before she could publish. In 1916, there was no institution whose job it was to protect the credit of a young student, leaving her legacy entirely at the mercy of her superiors. Arthur Dean, the president of the college, continued her work. He published the research in 1920 under his own name. He knew what she had done, yet the paper presented the work in terms that implied the development was his own. Alice Ball was entirely absent. But 2 years later, Dr. Harry Holman, the physician who had originally recruited her, published his own clinical paper. In it, he explicitly named the process the Ball method and credited her as the inventor. The resulting historical record was the direct outcome of 2 men making opposing moral choices about the truth. Despite Holman's paper, Dean's publication became the standard reference. Alice Ball disappeared from the history of medicine for 84 years. The University of Hawaii put up a plaque in her honor in 2000. A day was named after her in 2007. She entered the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2020. That is what recovery looks like when it arrives a century late. We started this arc 10 days ago in a Vienna hospital. Ignaz Semmelweis, Alan Turing, Rosalind Franklin, Frederick Douglass, Madam C.J. Walker, Nikola Tesla, Hedy Lamarr, William Kamkwamba, Srinivasa Ramanujan, Alice Ball. Alice Ball's erasure was the result of a system built to reward institutional rank over individual discovery. For 10 days, we have seen how the record favored the supervisor over the student, the state over the savior, and the patent holder over the inventor. These stories are the evidence that the systems through which we remember history were designed with a specific profile in mind, and when a genius didn't match it, the systems simply deleted them. Thank you for 10 days.